Okay, this is a quick demo to demonstrate how to install the open source Anvil app server on an inexpensive virtual private server account. There are a lot of companies that offer inexpensive hosting. I use a2hosting.com. You can see their unmanaged VPS accounts. Here, I'm currently using for this demo a Runway 4 account. You can see the specs for the machine that are installed on an account. When you get an account with A2, you'll get a client area where you can go in and install the version of the operating system you want. For this demo, I've got Ubuntu, I think version 20.04 installed. And it shows your settings. I can't show you everything here because it will give away the account information. But you get all of your SSH login information and WebUso uh, login information also in your client area. So SSH is sort of a standardized way of just logging into a command line on a remote machine. And you can use it from the command line in Windows. Type in the username and the IP address of the computer you want to log into, put the port number, and then you can enter your password. See it there. There you go. And then you can type in commands at the command line. I'm going to use another program I'm logged in here called Putty. It's another SSH command line. And there are a number of things you can do here. Right now, this is set up as the user is set up as root, just spun up this instance. But generally want to add a username, create a username, and just you can copy and paste all of this. And this will update all the packages in your environment. I have some packages here. I like to use Nano as my editor for these sorts of things. tmux package is going to be really important for managing Windows or different console environments. And we need to install OpenJDK Java runtime. Need to install Python pip, and we also need the Python virtual environment to run. And then this little line here on Ubuntu sets up HTTPS and it enables us to set up HTTPS. And actually need to get all of this here. So you run that, and then there's some other options here about how you can install packages in Linux. I think it's a little beyond the scope of this tutorial, but you can read about how to install packages if you're on some other version of Linux. So for Anvil in particular, what we're going to do is create a session name in tmux. So tmux enables you to run between different console instances. And the reason we want to do that is because if we're running a server at the console, we can't do anything else at the console. So this is almost like having separate windows open in a Windows environment. We can run a process and then switch back and forth between those different consoles to do different things while the server is running. So we'll create a new tmux instance. We'll just call this like Anvil demo. And you can see on the bottom, we're now in a instance of a console called Anvil demo. If we press Control B and then D, key D, we'll go back to the other console instance. We can get a list of those console instances by those sessions by typing tmux, tmux ls. You can see all the different instances that are running currently. And there is our instance we just created, the session we just created. So now we can switch to that by saying tmux /t Anvil demo. So now we're running at a command line where we can run this install. Okay. For the install instructions, created our session. Go back to our root folder, and we need to create a Python environment, which we're right here just going to call Anvil dir, and change into that, activate the Python environment, and you can read about Python environments on just Google Python environments if you haven't seen how to do that. But basically that lets us pip install a number of packages, number of libraries, and not have those packages interfere with other libraries that might be installed, other requirements. You can choose the version of the app server. Currently, I use the Anvil Classic Editor, and I found that this particular version is functioning well with that editor. So for these examples, I'm using that version, but you can set the version of the Anvil app server that you need and install any other libraries. You can do it all in one line if you need. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll create an Anvil, an environment for Anvil here. Generally, when you're working with SSH, using the right mouse key will paste. Let's go ahead and switch that. CD into it and activate it. When you have a Python environment created, you'll see that in parentheses, beginning of the command line. And let's go ahead and install everything. Install all our Python libraries. Boom. While that's running. So the next stage here is to clone your Anvil app. So let's go grab an app, and you can do that in the new editor by going to collaboration, and you can clone with Git, and we want this. You do need to have Git installed on the OS. On Ubuntu, it's installed by default. I'm doing screen sharing here, so I can't see everything very well. Right click, go, password in. Okay, so now what that did is it created a folder called, and you can adjust this. This is the default name, but you can create, if we want to do that, for example, and put it into a separate folder. It'll clone that into whatever folder you want. Okay, so now if we do that, you can see I've created two separate folders there. And if you want to do this with the classic editor, you can switch back to the classic editor, and the place that you get your Git instructions is screen. See it here. My screen recorder is covering this up. So you can click on View History and clone with Git, and you'll get that same Git command that you need to paste at the command line in Linux. Stop recording there for a second, so I'll do that again. Click View History, click Clone with Git, and then you get that same command line. Okay, so let's go back to our console. This is the SSH console, and shoot, so commands again. So now we've cloned it, and now we can uh, run Anvil app server. Copy this. Yep. And oops. You can see the first time you run it, it's going to download the jar file, which contains the Anvil server. And it's going to download it for the version of Anvil that you've installed. So I need to do it again with proper domain. And we're going to do HTTP first because there are some additional steps here to do HTTPS. And we'll cover that in a separate video, but this is server running server.python-.com. And you can put in a port if you'd like. Default, I think it's 3030. Let's run it here. Not sure if I've got some other apps running on the server. And I also need to put in the app name, which was tutorial. Yep. So the app option on the command line will point to the folder that you have the cloned app in. Let's grab this while it's running. Go, and you can see it's the first run. It has created the database tables. You'll see this just the first time. You can end the server by doing Control C. So let's run it again. And you can see it's a pretty quick server on A2. Does everything nicely. So let's go to that website. And blammo, we've got I've got the app running. Let's see here. Simple password for this little app. Okay, so I've got a login here, which I don't remember for this particular app. Time. Okay, so let's go through the process again. Since I can't remember the login here for this particular app, we'll go back to our console. Now, just to demonstrate, that app is running on the server now. If I do Control B and then the letter D, we switch out of that session, and I can go on and do other things. If I want to create another session here, I can tmux and tmux new /s and create another session. Also test. And so now I've got another session. While that server is running, I can do other things in this session and switch between sessions. I've got other apps running on this little server right now in other tmux sessions. Control B, letter D, and you can switch back and forth between those command line sessions so you can do things at the same time. You can see I have a number of have some Streamlit things running here and some bottle apps and some Flask apps and so on running in different sessions. Those are all running currently on this server, and they can all be accessed at different ports. But I'm going to switch back now. I'm going to first of all, let's kill that that's little test session. Go. Go. Okay, and we'll switch back tmux a/t is the command, and we called that Anvil demo. Okay, so now you can see we're back to the console session where this is running. I'm gonna close that. And let's go back to our Anvil account and go back, get a different, I think it's probably more familiar now that people are using the new editor. I prefer still the classic editor, only because it's been very stable. Okay, so let's grab a couple more different app here. Just a simple one here. I'll do the same thing. You can also get to this Git command by going to publish, clicking on collaborate, and then going down to clone with Git. Copy that. And back to our session. We're in the Anvil directory that we created, running the session there. And I'm going to, again, right click. So here we got contractor tutorial 1, cloning that. Got to give your password for your Anvil account. And now let's run this other app. So we just cloned that account, or cloned that app from our account. And now we'll run that at this port. Just going to change the port so you can see that. The auto migrate option on the command line is something you want to use if you're updating the this table schema in your app. I just have this here in the code or in the examples here so that you can see how that's used. Reload this now. And actually, we're not running at 3038. We're running at 3037 now. Okay, so we've got an app that's running. So now you've seen how to copy some apps. Let's do a couple of things here to demonstrate how this sort of life cycle of the app works. Again, the keys that you use to switch from a tmux session. So if you want to install a number of apps on the same server, Control B and then Control D detaches that tmux session. That server is still running. If I go to the website, refresh it, let's do that, refresh it. You can see that app is still running. And if I wanted to, I could create another session and run the other app. Let's go ahead and do that so you see it. Let's create another tmux session. We'll just call it demo 2. Okay, so let's switch into Anvil dir. Okay, and we'll start a Python environment here. Activate, so we've got a Python environment activated that loads all the libraries, or gives us access to all the libraries that we've got installed in the environment. And let's go up here and we have to do Anvil app server, give the name of the app, folder of the app. Let's run that. Called it here, contractor tutorial 4. So that's a different, oops. Contractor tutorial 4. And we need to give, see this. We need to make sure we include the origin. There are a lot of options here about how we can do this, but the simplest way is what's shown here. We're going to run everything over HTTP, so it's not run securely yet. There's a lot to cover with how to run apps over HTTPS. Anvil makes it really easy with the embedded version of traffic, but you have third-party options that you can use to do that. For right now, for the purposes of just showing how to run Anvil apps on the server, for example, if you're doing this in-house or if you have no need for security, you can run it over plain HTTP. And put in the origin. And this is needed so that the Anvil app knows where to get all its resources when it gets things like CSS and so on. And we can also set the port here conveniently. Python. You have this support we'll put this back on 3038. So one app running on port 3037, one app running on port 3038. What do I do here? Oh, didn't put the origin in. Dash origin. Go. So set the folder. And what do I do here? So my syntax is origin sure.python.com. Oh, I see here. Left out a dash for the app. Okay. So all those options that it shows you, these are all the options you have for how you want the server to run. Aha. And the reason that we're having an issue here is I currently am using that Postgres database for the other application. So what we actually need to do here, if we want to run two apps on the same server, is create a separate folder because apps running in the same folder will use the same Postgres database. So let's create Anvil dir2, switch into it. And actually, let's make a virtual environment. And then we'll switch into there, two. So we can see now we are running here. Installed. Okay, so we need to pip install Anvil app server. Actually, quotes. Now we can copy this app, clone the app. Give our Anvil password. Now, new line. I want the other app installed here. So let's go back to our apps. Oh, good. Tutorial 4 or some other thing. Let's just do another pair. Just meet on the forum, and we'll grab our Git repository, clone it, change the name of that folder. This, just call it Anvil. So now it's cloning this into the folder example, and now we can run it. It's here. Run the app that is in that folder example. See if everything's running right. If it's not, let's see what's going on here. So I probably, yep, I took one of the instances of the command line that wasn't properly formatted. So now we should see this app run. So hopefully seeing this, going through it a bunch of times, make this a little bit more familiar. So this is the first run of this application. The first time you see this run, you're going to see it create all the table schema that's needed in the app. And now we can go back to our server, and you can see we have this one app running at port 3037, and this other one now should be running at port 3038. And ta-da, here we go. So let's throw some data in here. This is just an example that was written to demonstrate some things on the forum. That's 2 repeating panels. Here. So the point here isn't to troubleshoot this app. The point here is to demonstrate that we can run 2 separate applications on the same server. So let's run on. Oh, okay, so 2 fully implemented applications on the server. And then there's some other things. So let's make some changes to these apps. It's probably the next most common thing. There's a lot here. Let's do this little routine. So when you have the app installed on your server, you can edit the app directly there. In fact, you can create your app entirely on the server, edit the code files, and build your app entirely from code. But if you want to continue to edit your app using the hosted Anvil tools, your editor, I'm going to switch back here to the classic editor. So you can use any of the tooling you're currently building your app with. So here's this example. Let's add something to the example. Let's put a title on this example. Just say, okay, so now we've made some changes to this app, and you can continue to edit the app. You can continue to, run your development server here on the Anvil hosted tooling using the Anvil hosted IDE, use the graphic builder. Then when you're ready to push those changes to the production server that you've got, where you've got it hosted, these are the instructions you need. So you're going to switch to the tmux session you need. So for example, if we've got a bunch of things running, I'm going to get out, Control B and D, and list your active sessions. This. Let's clean this up a little bit. Again, let's see our sessions. Here's our Anvil demo and demo 2. Let's switch to /t. So we're attaching to this particular session, and we'll demo 2. Okay. This is the one I want. Okay, so now we've attached, stop the Anvil app from running, switch into the folder we need, and now we need to switch into the cloned app folder and run these two commands: git fetch origin, git merge origin master. So let's do that. Our app name here is contractor tutorial 1. So we'll switch into there. Do git fetch origin. You're going to see it's going to log you in. And let's see here. Do I have that running the right one? No, actually, I'm not. Let's do this again. I was in the example tutorial. I downloaded that app that we're currently running in this session into the example folder. So let's do that again. Fetch origin, and you can see now it's updated the files, and we need to now do git merge origin master. And now this app is updated so that it matches the here. So it matches these changes that we've just made. So edit your app as you need. Switch into the folder that contains that cloned app. Run a git merge or git fetch origin, and then a git merge origin master, and then you can run your app again. And let's do this. One of the things we should do here is go back up into the application, into the Anvil folder, and run our app now. Running this one on port 3038. Now if we run, it's running. Go back to this example app that's running on port 38, and you're going to see we've got the changes that we've made to the application in our Anvil IDE, now all working on the server. So there are a number of other things that are really commonly used. I think I'll make a separate video so this one doesn't get too long, but in the next video, I'll show how to use the Anvil extras and how to install an app using a separate install of Postgres, so not the Postgres embedded database, and also demonstrate how to use PSQL to interact with the embedded database. And so there are a number of other things here that are useful, but that's I think enough to get you rolling with Anvil App Server. I think in another video I'll also demonstrate this on Windows and demonstrate some of the things that are a little bit different on Windows. And we'll also take a look at how to configure HTTPS termination on each of these different operating systems, because that can get a little bit hairy if, especially if you're on Windows. Okay, thanks for looking.